Shalom Talmidim. In this series of videos, I'll be talking about participles. There will be 3 parts, and each of the parts will cover a different section from the textbook. The overall pages for participles are pages 103 to 108 in the textbook. In this first video, I'll just talk about page 103 and page 104. Just kind of a general overview of participles, what they are, and what to think about them, how to understand them. And then later videos we'll talk more about how they're formed and what kind of vocal patterns they have in various stems, and then how to translate them. First, on page 103, the textbook author identifies the participle verb form as being a part of the imperfect. And she does so because the participle describes action that's happening in the present. The participle really is Hebrew's closest form to the English present tense. Now it's different than the English present tense, of course, but it probably comes as close as anything in Hebrew to what we would call the present tense. So participles often are used to describe activity that's ongoing right now in this moment of speaking. So in relation to the one who speaks, when they speak in the present tense using a participle, they're talking about action or activity that's ongoing right now. And in these cases, the participle describes continuous activity, continuous, ongoing action in the present moment. So in that way, it's incomplete or it's imperfect. Okay, so as the textbook identifies things as either being a part of the perfect family or the imperfect family, that's not her language, but this would fall under the larger umbrella term of imperfect, because it talks about this ongoing, continuous activity. The Hebrew name, in the modern Hebrew grammatical term for participles, is Boni. 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 You may recall, or you may see in this word, the preposition bain. I hope you can see that or read that. Bain. You may recall that the preposition bain is the preposition between. So in Genesis, the rakia is bain hamayim asher mitahat la rakia. That's the water that's under. Uvein hamayim asher me'al. That is the water that is above. So the rakia is betwixt, if you will, the water above and below, between. Well, the name of the participle is Boni, which is to say the in-between verb, because a participle in Hebrew is like a half verb. It's half verb and half adjective. It's kind of a confusing verb form for a lot of beginning students because it's a verb, but it acts like an adjective. Often in a sentence, it functions adjectively. However, it's frequently translated as a noun. Now, hold your anxiety. I'll explain that and give you examples. But it's confusing for many people because precisely that plurality of functions, and then trying to take that existence in Hebrew and render it somehow meaningfully in English. So there's a lot of things going on, but I think that it's very understandable, and there are some clues that I'll give you along the way that hopefully will help. But it's called the Boni, the in-between verb, because it's this half verb, half adjective. Just like any other verb, it's communicated through vocal patterns. And those vocal patterns are unique to each stem And in another video, I'll give you examples of participles in each of the 7 stems, and they each have a consistent and unique vocal pattern, and as well as visual signs that sort of tell you not only I'm a participle, but I'm a he-feel participle, or I'm a ni-fal participle, or I'm a pa'al or kal participle. And so it communicates that in the same way that other verb forms do that, like the true imperfect, upon which a prefix is attached, or a perfect that has an affix. Those communicate their form both by the presence of a prefix or affix, but also by a unique vocal and vocal pattern and visual signs that communicate what they are. It's the same with participles. However, one thing that's different for participles, because they're not only a verb, but also they have this adjectival function, is that the endings on participles are not verb endings. So for instance, you won't find an affix on a participle, because affixes only go on affix forms, perfect forms. Here, with participles, you will have noun or adjective endings. Nouns and adjectives have the same endings, you'll recall. And participles also have noun or adjective endings because they function often as adjectives. So they have a vocal pattern that communicates what stem they're a part of, and that's their verb half, and then the other half is the adjective or the noun ending that communicates both gender and number. Okay? Now, there are 3 really nice implications of the fact that they have noun or adjective endings instead of verb endings. The first, the first implication of this is that there are only 4 possible participle forms. Okay? With verbs, like the imperfect and the perfect verbs, you have 10 possible forms in each stem, depending on which affix or which prefix is attached, right? Because there are 10 independent personal pronouns, 10 different forms. Well, in participles, there's only 4. So that's a huge bonus. And the 4 are as follows: masculine singular, masculine plural, feminine singular, or feminine plural. Those are the only 4 forms that participles can take in Hebrew. So you may applaud.